Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, if you're new, hello, my name's Casper and I make videos on the internet, obviously. I took a few weeks off for Christmas and New Year, but I'm back. It's been a little while since I've sat in front of the camera, so we'll see how badly this goes. I'm going to be talking to you guys about self-harm today, so if that is not something you're in the headspace to hear about or think about or watch, obviously I'm not going to be self-harming for you, but you know what I mean. That was bad wording, I apologise. Then please click off this video. I will link below any support services, any links, hotlines, anything that I think will be of use or that I've used and found useful. Hey buddy, sorry, it's my guinea pig. I will link all of that below in the description box. So please use those support services, they are there for a reason. So yeah, secondly, I'm not an expert, I'm not an approved mental health professional. I've had no training in this, all I've had is experience, both as a self-harmer and as someone who has people in their life who have either self-harmed or still do self-harm. So I'm going to be speaking from nothing but experience today, because that's I feel like that's the best way to talk about these things. So yeah, I think that's all of the prerequisites out of the way, so let's crack on. So I'm going to go through a list of things or tips or things to consider when telling your parents that you self-harm, because I have seen on a lot of self-harm subreddits that a reoccurring theme is people going, how do I tell my parents? It's mainly just people panicking because they don't know how to tell their parents, and that's understandable. I didn't tell my parents for a very long time. I would not recommend that. I don't think, bearing in mind that I've been self-harming since my mid-teens and I'm now 23, I didn't sit down, I didn't even sit down, but I didn't tell my parents until just over a year ago. Maybe not even that. They knew about it beforehand because they'd seen the scars on my arms, but I hadn't actually told them, I guess, until then. And I can promise you now, granted they won't react very well, but they will react 10 times better if you tell them than if they find out. So definitely tell them if you feel comfortable doing so. Having said that though, the first thing I would say is that there is no right time. There is no perfect time. There is no perfect way to tell them. Like I said, they're not going to respond well regardless. So I think it's about finding when you're ready and when you want to tell them. The only reason why I told my parents that this is something I've been doing is because we were just about to go on a family holiday and I couldn't not wear t-shirts. And I had scars on my forearms and the backs of my arms, which they hadn't actually seen before, because up until that point I've managed to hide them. So I think it's all about finding what time works for you. For me, I found it better to send them a text just because I live 180 miles away. But it's, yeah, it sounds really cringe and really like such a cop-out, but seriously, do what works for you and when you feel comfortable. Second thing, and this is something I definitely highly recommend regardless of how or when you tell them, that is write it down first. For me, I sent the text, but I drafted that text a few days before, and that is something I would highly recommend, for multiple reasons. Firstly, you can edit it. So if you can write it down and then a few days later you can add things, you can change things. So even if you do tell them in person, if you write it down beforehand, then at least you know what you're going to say and you know how you're going to structure it. Because I feel like it's not something that you can just wing it. because it's quite a serious topic, and I feel like it's something that has to be done in a certain way, if that makes sense. And it's obviously not something you want to revisit, so I think writing down, even if it's just a list of everything you're going to say, everything that you want to say, then you can kind of kill two birds with one stone, I guess, for lack of a better phrasing. So yeah, so for me, I wrote it down in my notes app. I think it was like a few days before, and every now and then I would just come back to it, read it through, check it through. I think I sent it to one of my flatmates as well, because they've had similar issues, and just gone, hey, what do you think of this? Does it come across wrong? Because I'm also autistic, so the way that I write and the way that I express myself is a little bit different to most people. So my writing may often comes across as like quite blunt and stuff, but I think that's just a me issue. But yeah, if you can, definitely run it past friends and stuff. Which was that? Sorry, I'm just feeding my guinea pigs treats. The third thing is something that I understand that not everyone can do. But if you are known to services, or if you have a therapist or a counsellor or a youth worker or any kind of support system, run it past your support system. Run what you're going to say past your support system, or ask them for any tips, advice, anything that they would recommend or discourage, because it's not only getting that outsider's perspective, but it's also getting a professional's outlook, I guess you could say. So they might have a better way of phrasing things, or they may be like, don't include that, or include this instead. So, and it's always nice to get a second or a third opinion. Sometimes it can help. If you aren't open to services, then maybe run it past a loved one or friend, family member, someone who you feel comfortable with, just seeing what they think. Like I said, you don't have to, but it can sometimes help. The fourth thing is signposting. So again, I will leave a link to any kind of useful websites for friends, family members, even for people who self-harm, because a lot of people and a lot of parents don't really know much about self-harm, and I think that's where all of the main underlying issue when it comes to like families being a little bit, I don't want to say hostile, but things getting a little bit complicated, is from where families just aren't educated about it. They don't know much about it. It's obviously not something that's publicised much in the media and things like that. So the NHS website, Young Minds, any kind of mental health charity or related website, there might be some books that you can signpost them to. Obviously, if they're willing to read them, don't go breaking the bank with books that they're not going to read. But yeah, that might just help iron a few concerns of theirs as well, because they're going to be concerned. And I think lastly, the most important thing is expect questions, expect maybe a little bit of pushback, a lot of confusion, a lot of high emotions. You don't owe them any explanation for anything, but the least that you do owe them is an answer. So I think preparing responses, preparing questions that they might ask you, and at least knowing how you're going to respond to that can really help you feel less nervous, and also help them as well. Because like I said, you don't have to give them honesty, or don't stop eating my notebook. You don't owe them anything, but they do at least deserve a response, if that makes sense. And I don't want that to be taken the wrong way. But yeah, I think that's everything that I can think of, at least. So that is everything. Those are the main things. Those are the things that I will tell people time and time again if they ask how to talk to their parents about it. Like I said, it's not something you have to do. You don't have to follow any of these tips or tricks. Not really tricks. But it's just stuff that I've done and that I've found helpful. while you don't have to tell your parents, it will make your life a lot easier, because it's not going to help anyone by hiding it, by keeping it secret. It's just going to make things worse. At least that's my experience. But I'm going to leave it at that. If you have anything else to add, please put them in the comments. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and I am pretty much an open book. So if you have anything that you need to want to ask them, please feel free to put them in the comments, or DM me on Instagram at creating.casper. I also post most days on there, so if you want more regular content, follow me on there. Until next week, stay safe.